We bop and hippity hop, I'm as happy as I can be. Whoa.
Cool. This is the first installment of Let's Talk, which is basically me talking to you about different things that I believe I have built a bit of wisdom on, knowledge on. And yes, I'm only 28 years old, I'm very young, but I still believe that I've read enough and had enough experiences to be able to just give my opinion on it. I think everyone wants to know that this is the way to do it or that's the way to do it. And this video that I do today might change in a month's time to a different conversation around what we're going to talk about today. So anyways, that's just me, where I want to be able to sit down with minimal editing and actually minimal planning and just talk to a camera and basically self-therapize. So first episode of Let's Talk is about communication. Communication. And I've learned recently in the last few years, more squished into the last few months, of how incredibly important it is to communicate. Because if we don't communicate, we first and foremost cannot express ourselves. We can literally not live without communicating to people, except if you're a Buddhist monk or something, which I totally respect. But I think the first point to start off with, and I think I'll just go with 3 points for the day, is why communication matters. It's, for me, a very, very fundamental place to build relationships, and build relationships with anyone, build relationships with work colleagues, build relationships with your loved ones, build relationships with friends, with people that you don't even know, any sort of relationship. And I think that just in our normal day-to-day, to get by, we need to be able to communicate. Because if I go to the Shell garage and I ask, or I get there and the guy's 93 unleaded, and you cannot tell him what you want, he's not going to be able to obviously give you what you want, and then that will turn into not giving you what your needs are and that kind of stuff. So building relationships is one of the key factors as to why communication matters. The second, how could you say, thing that I can think of in terms of that is just expressing oneself. It would be so frustrating, except for the Buddhist monks, if you weren't able to tell people how you're feeling, if you weren't able to tell people that you need to go to the bathroom or that your stomach is sore. You wouldn't be able to tell your boss that you can't come to work today because your kid is getting his or her wisdom teeth removed. So in terms of expressing oneself for your needs, in terms of expressing oneself for your, artistic endeavors, expressing your feelings and that kind of stuff is so important, because your feelings towards your partner or to anyone needs to be said, or needs to be shown, or needs to have a song written about it, or needs to have an artwork done about it, or needs to in some way be communicated across to that person. So expressing your thoughts is so important in terms of just getting your needs across and your wants across and your feelings across. But that leads then into the foundation for success, because being able to express your feelings, being able to express your wants, turns into you being able to want to do those things, and then that turns into you eventually becoming successful because you can communicate that. And then the other vein of the success part is that if you can communicate with a team of people, that also makes you very successful, because you can bring a team together. And I have this book over here which I read. I don't know where the focus point over there, I think it's over there, which is The Rules of Management. This is basically just how you can manage a team, how you can manage people, and it's of utmost importance. So that's all under why communication matters, which then leads into the other side of communication, which is the listening part. I strongly believe in active listening, and when I'm speaking to someone, to look at them, to back, to mirror that person so that they feel that I'm not interrupted by anyone else. And it feels very good when someone is watching you and they are interested in what you have to say. And I think I learned this with How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is written by Dale Carnegie. Absolutely life-changing book in terms of being able to be a listener, because a good communicator is also a very good listener. They are someone that can taken all the information from there on forward, start the conversation between the other person and actually be present in the moment. So yeah, give that book a read. It's honestly, like, it's so insane. And I think maybe there's a whole different video that can be done about how to win friends and influence people. I think many people that know me personally, like, know how energetic I am, but also that I really do care. Like, it's a genuine care for people's stories and for what they have to say and that. But the other part of active listening then is also when it comes down to, like, really giving attention. So if there's a lot happening, if you're in a bar or if you are in a shop or something and there's a lot of stuff going on around you, giving attention to that person, looking at that person, really, like I said now, mirroring that person and showing that you are listening is, like, super important. When it comes down to also being an active listener is to have goals in mind when it comes to, like, so I want to hear what this person has to say about these 3 points, and that is me actively listening to them. Say, for instance, like, your rugby coach is talking to you and they want to tell you about the 3 new moves that's going to happen. Your mind, you can be like, okay, my goal is to first and foremost listen, to understand, and to take in the information that's being told to me. And those are the first 2 points I can think of. The first 2 points I can think of, and then, which are why communication matters, and then active listening, and then under that we can go into the clarity / honesty side of communication, which is for me the most important part of this entire situation, because that's what I've learned recently in me having to organize events, me having to follow up with clients, me having to talk to my clients, me having to get from one point to point, me having to get from point A to point B, blah. And in terms of the clarity, I would say, is to be very concise in what you communicate. And I think that's what these videos are also going to teach me, is that I have to get to my point, not as quickly as possibly, but get there as concisely as possible and give across the information without babbling. But I love babbling because that also self-therapizes me in terms of me getting new ideas, like, oh, I didn't see it from that perspective, or I didn't see it from that perspective. And being very clear in what you need helps save a lot of time. It helps you actually get what you need. It helps stop frustrations within yourself and within other people. And it's just a very important part of it, is just to be as concise as possible with your communication. The honesty side of things is, I think, in this day and age, for me personally, like, a very difficult thing to, how could I say, to facilitate, because I'm a massive people pleaser. And to honestly communicate to someone, like, actually, no, I don't want to do this with you, or no, I don't want to go to this party, or no, I don't want to do this, it's very difficult. But it has a lot to do with you first and foremost actually caring about the other person, because you don't want to waste their time. And it would be a big, like, litmus test in seeing how the other person reacts to you saying no to something. But for me, that honesty also has to come very quickly, because with me personally, like, I don't like replying voice notes, and then the voice note doesn't get replied after 1 day, then 2 days, then 3 days, and then I haven't replied back to that person yet. And then from my perspective, it is the speed at which you have to reply, because say, for instance, now I've got an event that's coming up on the 16th of March and I need to get stuff done as quickly as possible. If I keep waiting for other people, then it's going to take me way too long. So following up and communicating as quickly as possible, but with having processed emotions. And this is where I'm self-therapizing and, like, babbling now, because I don't just say, like, reply to someone as quickly as possible. You can also take your time with it, but just giving raw emotions back also doesn't help sometimes. But I think definitely when it comes down to having a good balance in your processing time, that does really benefit you and benefit the other person. But geez, like, for the most part, lots of the stuff we say to each other these days isn't as heavy. Obviously, I can imagine that there are situations where you communicate with someone about, like, you're sick, or you've got, like, a baby on the way or something about that. Then that might be a time you need to process a lot more. Or if you just need to, like, basically process emotions, like if you just, like, came out of a fight and you were like, "Rah!" and then that person, like, walked away, or you walked away, like, I would take some time to obviously process through it and get your head into it. But yeah, the clarity and honesty part about it all, like, trickles down then into, once again, being open to feedback. Because if you're going to be honest with someone, then you have to obviously be able to take their honesty back and be able to take it from a constructive perspective. I think once again, anyone who knows me and has met me, like, I'm all about like feedback. Like, please give me feedback. Please let me know if I'm being this or if I'm not being that, or if I'm being too much of this or not enough of that, because I grow out of that. I want to grow, and it's then of me to have my filters up to be like, okay, fine, someone told me not to do this, but meanwhile I actually just want to do it. So it's up to you as well to have those filters be really like, well, how could I say, well oiled, if you want to say it in that way, so that you can take feedback but also not all take it to heart. But yeah, I think those are like the main 3 points, which is why communication matters, which is like just to give us a background so we can always like be present and conscious of it. Active listening, and then clarity and honesty. But yeah, I think that, I don't know about other people, but I think that many of us like are half like scared to communicate these days. I don't know why, but it is just a matter of being able to communicate to people in a confident way, showing them what you need, what you want, because it helps them and it helps you at the end of the day as well, if you can just get past that phase of it. But yeah, this is my first Let's Talk, and if there's anything else that you'd want to talk about, like, put it down in the comments, and I'm going to just try and do this. My main reason for this is that I might be doing this in the mornings, like when I wake up, because I wake up at like 5 o'clock roundabout, and then I sit and I'm like, what can I do now? Then I fall asleep again. So I want to find something that I can do in the mornings where my brain is all fresh and I can talk, and it might be a lot softer, but it's okay. Like, I want to be able to talk to you guys and get my community going and like get some thoughts and some conversations started. But more than that, hope you guys liked it. Please like, subscribe, do all the things at the bottom of the page, and love and light towards you guys. Abschweeb.
Boom, 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 and zippity zoom. Love is sweet, love is grand, works run, 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 run. We bop and zippity hop. I'll never be a million.